I am so tired and cozy after a long ski tour. I went with a guy who's a much better athlete than me, so it was he just wanted to talk and talk, and I was like right at that edge where I could barely keep speaking. So I'm exhausted. Um, right, so I just wanted to talk to you about like the last 3 months I've been trying to learn about watchmaking, and I've learned a few things, and I think that they might be helpful if you're considering learning about watchmaking. Some of the things that I've learned could be useful to know. So I'll go through a list. I have 13 points here, so go ahead and scroll if this isn't for you. The first thing is that I discovered it's pretty straightforward to do a build, like either of a watch or of a movement. Like I thought movements would be hardcore. I even made a video about it, but they're not that bad. You just have to have the tools, which you can buy, and you just put them together one step at a time. In both cases, I made two different movements. In both cases, I did have to assemble it all the way, and then it didn't work at all, and I had to disassemble it partially until I figured out the part that I messed up on, and then once I reassembled them, they worked. So a little bit of troubleshooting is good, and you also, like through assembling movements, you totally learn about how they work. You learn the part names, like what's a yoke, what's a barrel, where do they go, where does the crown work, how does the keyless works function, what even is that? Like you learn all that stuff because you have to in order to be able to put the pieces in. So very, very helpful for just learning about watches in general. And I would imagine it would make you a better collector. Another thing that I'll tell you is that I assumed that I'd want to restore vintage watches that I could find cheaply on eBay. And it turns out that I'm not that interested in doing that for two reasons. One is I just like new shit. And two is there's a ton of competition on eBay for these watches. Like you're gonna pay for a really nice brand like an Omega or better. You're gonna pay a significant amount of money, even if the thing is totally fucking broken. And it's a huge risk. Like, are you really gonna want to pay, $800 to $2,500 for something that you might not be able to fix? I don't. And I think that's because there's so many people in this like watchmaking world that are trying to use that style of watch building as an arbitrage. And it's not an arbitrage. Like the potential profits are largely like they're kind of priced in, especially if you consider the amount of effort it takes to fix things. All right, this is getting long. I'll keep going. Putting together watches, like it brings out a certain amount of perfectionism in me that I've lost. Like I used to have a ton of perfectionism when I was a kid. I've largely lost it just to become more pragmatic, like slap out that email and just get the job done. But I find that I want something that's a product to be perfect. I've made a little tiny scratch on the dial and it's like, yep, all right, I'm gonna order that dial again. I'm not gonna let myself look at a dial with a scratch on it for any period of time. Same with bending hands, like any kind of mistake I make, I want to fix it, but that means that I have to wait for a new part to arrive if I haven't. I now order at least 2 pairs of hands for every watch build I do. I do love shopping for parts. I think that's maybe actually one of my favorite things to do is just like cruising around AliExpress, DS Watch, Lucius Atelier, like it's fun looking for parts. But what isn't fun is that really the main movement that you can get parts for easily is NH movements, NH35, NH36. That's a day and a day date. Seiko movement, basically. 2 different types of Seiko movements. And I don't really care. Like putting together one of those, I was like, ooh, there's a lot of plastic in this. I did not like that. And I even broke one of the little plastic gears. So that sort of sucked. And then when I see nicer watches, they don't have NH movements in them. I mean, NH movements are fine, and they work, but I found myself wanting better. Like there's certain thinner Miyota movements. There's even some of the like Chinese movements are prettier, and I think they work pretty well. The Seagull movements, I think that like they're based on ETA and Sellita movements, which are Swiss. So they're good movements. Some of them maybe could have a little better finishing, but they're definitely prettier than NH movements. Next, AliExpress, the range of quality on there is 100%. You have the absolute worst shit that you've ever seen that's worthless and piece of crap, all the way up to just really high, very, very good quality stuff. Sometimes you have to buy some stuff to start to figure out what's good and what's not. The reviews on there are not the best way of figuring it out. I have definitely a few oopses that are sitting in my watch cabinet. Oh, another thing is that, like, a lot of times when you look at a micro brand and you see a watch that you like, this has been one of my favorite things. I see a micro brand, I see a watch that I like, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder if I can make something that looks almost exactly like that. And it turns out that unless it's like a very special micro brand, like, for example, Henry Ward, this is difficult to do with, you can often just find almost the exact dial that they use, the exact cases that they use. I don't know if they're exact, but like visually exact. So then you make your own version of the micro brand watch and it's yours, and you can put your own logo on it or whatever. And that's very fun. I love doing that. Another thing about doing that kind of shopping, like, oh, okay, I want to make this GMT, or I want to make this thing that has the date on the bottom or whatever. You start to learn the movement specs and details from those brands. Like, okay, a Miyota 9075 is a true GMT, or a Mecha Quartz is a VK63. Like, you just immediately know. And there's no way I could have just like rattled those two facts off before these 3 months of doing this. The next thing is, every AliExpress seller has a little message button on there. And if you want something different than what they sell, you just hit that message button and ask for it. And I would say like 1 or 2 out of 5 times they'll do it. And this like I've asked for a lot of, can you put my logo on this? And they will. And like, yeah, it's more expensive. So say maybe the dial is like $15. They'll add like a $30 logo printing fee, but that's a one-time fee. So if you're gonna make 5 watches, that's $30 to get your logo across five watches. Very, very affordable. Imagine doing that in the US or Europe, like that would be hundreds of dollars. And then another thing I've started doing is Alibaba. So if you want like an entirely specialized case that fits a particular movement, like I'm trying to get a case that will fit a Seagull ST 1903, which is a chronograph movement. I just cannot find a case out in the open market for that. I know they exist. Like I could buy a whole watch and then just pull out the guts and swap them, but I want to find just a case. I just want to make this happen. And so I've been working with, you can like fill out an RFQ, just describe what you want, almost like you're describing it to ChatGPT in Alibaba, and you'll get immediately like 10 replies. Oh, we can do it. But then you have to talk to each of those 10 replies, and 8 of them won't actually be able to do it, but a couple of them will really be able to do it, even if it requires them doing some CAD work in order to make it happen. Like, and they'll do that. They'll be like, oh, there's $100 CAD fee. Okay, yeah, let's do it. $100 to design your own case is just, it's insane. Oh, one thing about Alibaba that's not so much the case on AliExpress is that they have minimum order quantities. And I've seen them as high as 300. Obviously can't do that, but as low as 2. I have 2 shops, like just for buying dials, mainly buying dials, but also, buying like little rotors to decorate NH movements to try to make them a little prettier, or bridges to make them a little prettier, are DS Watch and Lucius Atelier. The Lucius guy, every time he sends you something, he just sends you the nicest little note, like, thank you, you're making my business succeed. And he is the fastest shipper of all these people. So if you need something quick, go to him. And last thing, this is important actually. It's quite easy with your own build to get over $400. Like you can, and so that's why you see watch prices get high. Like imagine you're a micro brand and just sourcing your parts is like $200-300. You're going to need to double that maybe, and then some in order to make it worth it to do marketing for it. So yeah, that's a consideration, and it's not for everybody. But I would argue that you can get to as good a quality as you see in some $1,000 plus micro brands, and you can do that for $400 or $500. So that could be worth it.